Hello, welcome to this update. So let's see the severe weather and more stuff. But today we have an enhanced risk from Nebraska to southern Illinois, in parts of Missouri and Iowa too, a slight risk in parts of the northern plains in North and South Dakota, and a bigger slight risk from Nebraska to South Carolina, another marginal in the northeast, and a marginal from Pennsylvania to Florida, and all the way north to North Dakota. So let's see. The tornado threat is just 2% for now, and it like 2% from Tennessee to Wisconsin and to Nebraska too, in parts of Illinois, most of Iowa, northern Missouri, and parts of Kentucky and southwestern Indiana. Also 2% in North Dakota there, so be aware. The wind threat is the most dangerous, so it's 30% in the enhanced risk from Nebraska to Illinois, and a hatched area for potentially hurricane force winds. So let's see, a 15% from Nebraska to South Carolina, 15% in North and South Dakota, a 5% in the Northeast, and a 5% from Pennsylvania down to Florida and all the way up into Minnesota. So be aware. The hail threat is a 5% in the Northeast, 5% from North Carolina to North Dakota, and a 15% from Illinois to Nebraska, and a 15% from North Dakota to South Dakota there. And that hatched area in Nebraska for potentially 2-inch plus hail, so be careful there. So, and the general risk of thunderstorms in some other areas. So let's see. Severe thunderstorms are expected today into tonight across a broad area from eastern Nebraska and Iowa into parts of the Midwest, Tennessee, and southern Appalachians, with multiple swathes of damaging winds within this corridor. Severe thunderstorms are also possible in parts of the northern plains. So be careful in those areas there. And we already have some severe thunderstorm watches there for this in parts of Kentucky and Missouri there. These ones here. So let's see. I already have some mesoscale discussions too for damaging wind and stuff, and there'll be more discussions later and probably more watches too. So always stay tuned into this page here. Let's see another discussion there in parts of Virginia, Pennsylvania, and other areas. So yeah, be careful there. So let's see. So this is the HER. It has some storms in Iowa, and then they dissipate. Then it has some storms in Florida this afternoon. Lots in Florida there. And it shows more storms in Pennsylvania, Virginia, South Carolina. And let's see. Shows some more, an isolated storm or two in New York. And it's showing more in the west there. Some more showers, maybe a storm or two in Montana there this afternoon. Showing some more storms there. And it's not really showing much in the enhanced risk area there. It just shows those storms in Iowa there by 17Z, but then they are gone. And then later by 7Z Wednesday, like practically almost tomorrow morning, it shows some stronger storms in Kentucky there, but it's barely showing anything for that enhanced risk there. I think mainly because these storms are already happening, most of them, not all of them, but like most of them. So let's see what else here. So just to check the radar to see which storms are happening. So it shows the storms in Iowa are currently active there, and they have the severe thunderstorm watch in Missouri there and southern Iowa. So there are a bunch of severe thunderstorm warnings in those areas already. And then we have this more vigorous line in Indiana and Kentucky there. So this line might have some big damaging winds there. So it's basically already happening there. So let's see, so that line there and that line in Kentucky. So it showed the line in Kentucky there, but it shows maybe some more storms in Tennessee, South Carolina later, but it's barely showing like anything in that enhanced risk. So that's crazy. Let's see if it shows anything in Nebraska. It barely shows a single storm in Nebraska. Maybe a stronger one there this afternoon, but it's barely showing nothing. This is kind of weird. Or it already happened, or this model is not catching up. The last run, the 15Z run, showed like the storms in Iowa, the ones in Indiana, but then they dissipated, they are happening now, and then it showed like barely nothing in Nebraska there and the other areas. In the northern plains, where there's the other slight risk, it shows some storms in North Dakota there especially, and very few things in South Dakota, but there might be some stronger storms later by like tonight or tomorrow morning, but it shows like very few stuff there too. So this run is a little bit weird, but maybe the base of this enhanced risk is happening now because of those storms in Iowa there. So and by the time you watch this video, it will be different. But yeah, so let's see what else we have here. So for tomorrow, there's another enhanced risk for tomorrow in parts of Iowa, in eastern Nebraska and southeastern South Dakota, and a slight risk from Kansas to Minnesota, and a marginal from Texas to Minnesota, and all the way east to Virginia, North Carolina, and Pennsylvania. So tornado threat is 2% from Nebraska to Minnesota, parts of Illinois, northern Missouri, eastern South Dakota, southeastern North Dakota, and Iowa, and even parts of western Wisconsin. The wind threat is the greatest, 30% hatched tomorrow for potential hurricane force winds, and 15% true from Kansas to Minnesota, and a 5% in the marginal there. And hail threat is also hatched in parts of the 15% for potential 2-inch plus hail from Nebraska to Minnesota, and 15% and the 5% from Texas to Minnesota. So be aware tomorrow. Let's see. Scare strong severe storms are possible from the plains to southern Great Lakes and Appalachians and portions of New England. The highest severe potential is expected across Iowa Wednesday evening. So be aware tomorrow. And then Thursday, there's another slight risk from Illinois to Ohio and northern Kentucky, and a marginal from Wisconsin to North Carolina and parts of the East Coast. So probabilistic 15 and 5%. So be aware for Thursday, and a general risk of thunderstorms throughout the southwest, parts of the plains, and the East Coast. Severe thunderstorms are possible in parts of the Great Lakes, Ohio Valley on Thursday, so be aware there. Let's see here. Day 4 through 7, day 4 through 8, nothing yet. Day 2, fire, nothing, just an elevated. For today, from parts of Nevada to Wyoming, and isolated dry thunderstorms possible in Idaho and Montana. So yeah, be aware. And this is the map for today, where there might be rain, storms, severe weather. And let's see for tomorrow, for after tomorrow. Precipitation for today shows more in parts of the East Coast, there in the enhanced risk, shows more on the northeast and Canada. For tomorrow, For Thursday, for Friday, for Saturday, more there. For Sunday, still in the East Coast some more. For Monday, shows more in some areas, especially the north. So let's see. Day 1 through 7 shows a lot in the Ohio valleys, some areas of Mexico, throughout the west, some Canada, and through the Bahamas and Florida, as that potentially tropical system crosses there. So let's see. Excessive rain. So there's a really small marginal in parts of New Mexico there, another marginal in Arizona, New Mexico, northern Mexico, another marginal in Idaho and Montana there, shows another marginal in Florida there, mainly western Florida, shows a slight from Iowa to North Carolina, and a marginal from New Hampshire to Georgia, and all the way into Nebraska. So be aware. For Wednesday tomorrow, a slight in New England, a marginal in New England, and specifically in Vermont and New Hampshire, the slight, and the marginal from Pennsylvania to Maine, another marginal in Arizona, New Mexico, and a marginal from North Dakota to North Carolina, and a slight risk of flash flooding from South Dakota to Illinois. So be aware. For Thursday, shows a marginal from Minnesota to Virginia, and a marginal from California to Colorado. So be aware. Day 4, Friday, shows a marginal in Arizona, New Mexico, Colorado, and a marginal from northern Georgia to Vermont. For Saturday, shows a marginal from West Virginia to Maine, and a marginal from Colorado to Arizona and New Mexico. So be aware. Let's see. The heat risk is still major today in much of those areas there. So you can see here, basically, there's the heat wave there, the heat dome, and the storms riding around it there. So let's see. A bunch of extreme heat risk in Texas and New Mexico today, be aware, and more slights and moderates throughout other areas. Tomorrow, still majors and extremes in parts of some areas there, from Missouri, Kansas, Tennessee, Texas, New Mexico. So be careful. Some moderates on the East Coast and some majors. Let's see, Thursday, still some extremes in Alabama, especially Mississippi and Tennessee, and still in Mexico and New Mexico. No, Texas, New Mexico. Shows more majors in Florida. Let's see, Friday shows more extremes in Georgia and Mississippi, some extremes in Tennessee, South Carolina, and Alabama and Florida, and a lot of major heat risk. More extremes and majors start popping in the west by Friday. Saturday, some more extremes in parts of Washington, some majors still in the south and some extremes. Sunday, a little bit less, but still some majors in the south, some moderates, and even extreme in Florida. Monday, a little bit more moderates, especially some extremes in California there, and some moderates and majors throughout the south, and some slight in the yellow. So yeah, be aware. The current warnings, this changes like all the time, but you can see the heat advisories and heat warnings throughout the south, the plains, and those areas there. Flood watches in Tennessee and Virginia, the severe thunderstorm watches and some warnings. Shows the heat watches already in parts of Oregon and Idaho, some air quality advisories in California and Idaho, Washington, Oregon, Wyoming, and Colorado. Shows red flag warnings there for fire danger too, and a flood watch in New Mexico. And this is mainly it. So let's see. The temperatures for today shows some 100s in the plains, 90s in many areas. Let's see, more is there in the northeast, up to 105 in Kansas, so be careful. Day 2 shows still some 100s in the plains, some 90s in the south and southeast, 100s in the southwest. For Thursday, shows more 100s in the plains, some 90s in many areas through the east and the south, more 100s already popping in the west and southwest. For Friday, shows more 90s and 100s throughout the plains, the west and the south east. Day 5, Saturday, shows more 100s in the plains in the southwest, 90s in the southeast. Let's see. Day 6, Sunday, shows more 100s in the plains in the southwest to 115, 100s in California and in Washington and some other areas, Arizona, more 90s in the southeast. And day 7, next Monday, shows more 100s in the plains, more 100s in the southwest, the west, some 90s, more 90s in the southeast and parts of the east. And this is mainly it. The 24-hour max wind gusts for Tuesday today, valid until 1 p.m. Wednesday tomorrow. More stronger gusts in Wyoming there. Be aware there. Some gusty winds in other areas, some in California, a little bit in the plains, and this is just gusty winds by themselves. So this doesn't take into account the severe weather. Of course, there'll be much higher winds than this from the severe weather. And if the winds from the severe storms showed up in this map, they'll be like in the yellows and dark yellows there. So yeah, be aware. Let's see now for Canada. So first, in the severe weather, we have general risk of thunderstorms throughout much of Ontario, southern Ontario, even an area in southern Quebec there, in parts of Quebec, New Brunswick, especially like southwestern New Brunswick, in those areas there. More general risk of thunderstorms throughout Ontario, Quebec, and there's the severe possible in southern Ontario there. So be aware, some severe storms possible. So they mention strong wind gusts, small hail, and torrential rain. So please be careful, especially with the heavy rain, because there might be some areas of flooding there. So be careful there. And it's hard to see on this map, but there's also another severe possible in parts of Western Ontario there. So I think that in the far left corner is Manitoba, and that is Western Ontario. So be aware there too in Western Ontario, more severe storms possible there, and some small hail, heavy rain, and strong winds, the main hazards. And there's a general risk of thunderstorms throughout Manitoba too, especially southern Manitoba, as you can see there in the corner of the map, and through western and northern Ontario, general risk of thunderstorms. So be aware. And this, like the atmospheric moisture, it shows very high moisture through southern Ontario there, and parts of Quebec. So be aware with the heavy rain there and potential flooding. So let's see here some other things, some hazards now, and then we'll check the model to see where the storms will be at. So in Western Ontario there, they have some heat warnings. A heat event is expected to begin today through Thursday, so 29 to 30 degrees, more heat warnings there. And these warnings change all the time, so you can always check. Some air quality statements there, parts of Saskatchewan and Alberta. So more air quality advisories in Northwestern Territories, so be aware. Some more special air quality advisories for southern British Columbia for the smoke. Some heat warnings in southern Alberta. Daytime temperatures between 29 and 32 degrees. Another air quality advisory there. I think that's right between Alberta and British Columbia. Be careful. And there in Nunavut, we have that small warning, a rainfall warning there. So heavy rain amounts up to 30 millimeters possible by Wednesday. So be aware. In Cambridge Bay, let's see what else. We have that small warning in parts of Labrador, a heat warning there. Today through Wednesday near 30 degrees. Let's see more heat warnings in parts of Newfoundland there. 28 to 32 degrees, so hot and humid. Be careful there. Some more special weather statements for the heat wave in Quebec there and Ontario. So even a fog advisory in Ontario there. So visibility may improve this afternoon. Another special weather statements for heavy rain is low moving thunderstorms, like I showed you, southern Ontario. So be aware, these warnings change all the time, and there might be a severe thunderstorm watch or two by this afternoon. So let's see here. Uh, some maps for this. Wait. North America. So first, for Eastern Canada, there's the European model. It shows there still some storms in Ontario, moving near Hudson Bay into Quebec, and lots of storms throughout northwestern Quebec, especially like western Quebec there. As this low pressure comes, and by this evening, more storms throughout some other areas of Quebec possible. Some possible near New Brunswick and southern Quebec. And let's see, and the storms in Ontario there, those storms with heavy rain in southern Ontario there. So be aware this afternoon and evening. And also between today and tomorrow shows some storms forming in Manitoba tonight and moving to western Quebec, no, western Ontario by tomorrow morning. So this like tomorrow morning shows more storms moving through western Ontario, southern Manitoba, and let's see here. And by tomorrow shows more storms in Quebec, even to Labrador, northern Quebec, more storms in Newfoundland tomorrow, Newfoundland, and then shows more storms throughout the northeastern U.S. too, and southern Quebec. Be aware. And by Thursday, the 1st, still shows some heavy rains and storms in New Brunswick and other areas, going into the Atlantic there. So and then by Saturday the 3rd shows another system there, with some potential storms too. By Sunday, nothing big. Next Monday, potential another system from the U.S. to affect Atlantic Canada, and then by next Tuesday, it's like a week out, so there's still a lot of uncertainty, but I can show you. Shows another system through the northern US and southern Canada, moving there, and more rain by next week, by August 6th and 7th and 8th, and the rest is too far out. So let's see. For western Canada, still shows some lingering showers in British Columbia, maybe a storm or two this afternoon in Alberta, in Saskatchewan. So let's see, more storms later this evening by Saskatchewan and Manitoba, and then shows some more showers, maybe some snow there, northern British Columbia in the mountains together with Alaska, and shows more rain there in British Columbia tomorrow, Wednesday, in some areas, and by tomorrow afternoon and tomorrow night into Thursday shows more storms possible, parts of Alberta and some other areas there. So then it quiets down, still some storms by Thursday and Friday, and then it quiets down a little bit, maybe some sporadic storms on Saturday and Sunday, some more rain in those areas by Monday, August 5th, and yeah, this is mainly it. And by August 7th, maybe some more systems there, but that's far out. So let's see central Canada here. So it shows some storms possible in Saskatchewan and Manitoba there, especially this evening, more in parts of northwestern Ontario and Manitoba, and then tonight into tomorrow shows those storms moving through Manitoba and western Ontario there, and then it shows more storms tomorrow in Ontario. So this tomorrow afternoon shows more in Ontario, and then maybe this afternoon and evening some more storms in Manitoba, western Ontario. So yeah, be aware. Let's see. So let's just see the her. So here we can see southern Canada too. So it shows there the storms in Ontario going into Quebec there, and then it shows later those storms there in southern Ontario, proposing that heavy to torrential rain possibility. So it shows very strong storms in southern Ontario this afternoon and evening. So be aware there for southern Ontario by tonight into tomorrow. They move into Quebec and shows more storms in Quebec tomorrow, and those ones in Ontario there tomorrow morning and afternoon. But definitely be careful in southern Ontario today with the storms there. And today's Tuesday, July 30th. Be aware there. Let's see here. Might get some showers, maybe a storm or two in parts of Montana there in Idaho, maybe some showers, maybe an isolated storm in southern Alberta, and yes, and it's now showing the storms there in North Dakota from the slight risk, some stronger storms in Nebraska, and now the herd is working, I think, because now it shows the storms moving through Iowa, going into Missouri and Illinois, and it really shows now that damaging wind threat there. So I don't know what happened earlier, but now it's showing the right thing there. And the other storms further south in Tennessee, North and South Carolina, the storms in Florida this afternoon, and yes, so be careful there with those storms. And let's see just one last thing, and this is mainly it. And still shows some very hot temperatures in southern Manitoba there, up to 31, 32, and shows there in Quebec some 30 is there, 29 this afternoon, shows in Labrador there about 28 degrees. Let's see, and in Manitoba there around 27 degrees, 30 degrees. Southern Manitoba high into the 30s, but mainly like 31, 32 degrees there. So nothing crazy, but very hot. Into high 20s and some 30s in parts of southern Saskatchewan, in the 20s there in other areas. And yeah, hot too in Newfoundland into the 30s, and New Brunswick high into the 20s. And let's see, this heat continues tomorrow in Ontario, hotter there in Quebec by Thursday, hotter in Ontario and Quebec by Thursday, shows some warmer temperatures there, and then might have some cool downs later by next week with some systems, but still hot in the south. So this is mainly it. Thanks for watching.